Good afternoon, and thank you for joining me. I'm Wayne Goodwin, chairman of the North Carolina Democratic Party. The allegations into the alleged impropriety of the race for the North Carolina Ninth Congressional District have continued to grow as more light has been shed on Republicans' systemic and systematic efforts to rig this election. Many elected leaders, both in North Carolina and across our country, have made their voices heard about this growing Republican scandal. There has been one voice, however, that has been absent from much of this election scandal: Mark Harris. Mark Harris is hiding behind his lawyers and refusing to answer questions from voters and the media. Mark Harris must answer to the voters about what he knew and when he knew it. North Carolina's voters deserve to know the truth about the election fraud perpetrated by his campaign. There is overwhelming evidence that Mark Harris's campaign is directly connected to an election fraud operation that illegally collected and potentially threw out absentee ballots. The public deserves to know at a bare minimum more about Harris's involvement with McRae Dowless. Harris has yet to answer simple questions like the following: when did you first meet McRae Dowless? Who introduced you? Why did you hire him in 2018? What did you think Dowless was being hired to do? And did you perform a background check? Did you promise McRae Dowless a $40,000 cash win bonus if you won the election? Why did you recommend Dowless to Charlotte City Council candidate Pete Givens? And what did you mean that he had a process? McRae Dowless has a long history of conducting absentee ballot fraud, which was well documented, yet Mark Harris still hired him. And now Harris refuses to answer simple questions about their relationship. McRae Dowless admitted to conducting absentee ballot fraud in 2016, something that was covered by the national program This American Life. Were you aware of this? Questions also for Mark Harris are the following: did you know that Dowless had offered to work for Congressman Pittenger in 2016 and 2018? Did you know that Congressman Pittenger refused to hire him? Did you know why? Did you see the results in the Bladen County GOP primary absentee mail-in vote? Did you raise any questions about those results? And did you know that Pittenger raised questions about those results? Were you aware he worked for your opponent Todd Johnson in the 2016 Republican primary? Were you aware that your opponent got 98% of the mail-in absentee ballot vote in Bladen County during that election? Even Harris's decisions on the campaign trail point to a deeper relationship with Dowless than he has publicly revealed. Why did Harris spend so much time in Bladen when he's from Charlotte and Bladen represents such a small percentage of the overall vote? In his final FEC report, he reported debt for reimbursement payment for Bladen absentee early voting poll workers, reimbursement door to door. Those are the exact words. What services did Mark Harris's campaign receive for $34,000? Every day, ladies and gentlemen, new reporting raises fresh questions. Last night, for example, just last night, new reports showed that the Bladen County Board of Elections leaked early vote information. Did Harris know about this? Did McRae Dowless share with Harris the early vote information that was leaked from the Bladen County Board of Elections? The North Carolina State Board of Elections, along with every level of law enforcement, is investigating this criminal fraud. Election experts believe and have said publicly that there are enough ballots in question to change the course of this election. And getting to the bottom of this Republican scandal begins with Mark Harris answering some very important questions. I'll now turn the podium over to my friend Senator Floyd McKissick, who will discuss why getting to the bottom of this scandal is so vital and important for our minority communities, especially African Americans and our Native Americans living in that part of North Carolina. Senator?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Getting to the bottom of this Republican scandal for Congressional District 9 is important for the people of Southern North Carolina and for every North Carolinian But it's more vital to get to the bottom of this for African Americans and for our Native American communities across our state. They are the central victims of this election fraud. Our minority communities too often feel that they're voiceless, that the system is rigged against them, no matter what they do. The brave people who have come forward to recount how Dallas and the Republicans tampered with their ballots have been overwhelmingly minorities. And they've all expressed the same feelings: distrust, frustration, and feeling of being forgotten by people here in Raleigh and up in Washington. These people have seen our Republican leaders in our state try to rig the system against them at every step of the way. For the last several years, Republicans have worked nonstop to restrict the right to vote for African Americans in North Carolina. From discriminatory voter ID laws that have been passed, to gerrymandering our state's legislature, to recently the voter ID bill, and now this egregious fraud perpetrated by Mark Harris' campaign. It's clear that Republicans in North Carolina need to answer for their project to silence African Americans at the ballot box. African Americans and Native Americans are the central victims of this Republican scandal. These unreturned ballots are disproportionately minority voters. More than 40% of the ballots requested by African Americans and more than 60% of those requested by Native Americans did not make it back to election officials. We need to know why. For white voters, that figure was just 17%. In Robeson County, in particular, 75% of the mail-in ballots requested by African Americans and 69% of the mail-in ballots requested by Native Americans were listed as unreturned. But we know that there's a lot of shenanigans that's gone into this in terms of why they did not get back. Getting to the bottom of this Republican scandal is about showing minority communities across the state that their voice matters. This is about restoring public trust and confidence in our elections, especially among communities that too often feel as if they're forgotten and stepped aside. And that starts with Mark Harris answering the key questions about his involvement in this growing scandal. We've outlined many of these questions here today. The public does know why Mark Harris hired Dallas, how they were introduced, what he knew, when he knew it about this whole election fraud. And our African Americans and Native American communities who've had their voice silenced this election deserve to know what Mark Harris's central role was in disenfranchising them. These are critical, important, significant issues that have come to the forefront, and these are answers that need to be provided expediently. Not one more day should pass before Mark Harris is held accountable. And hopefully we'll see a new election that allows the voters of the Ninth Congressional District to elect their candidate of choice.